Welcome, property investors. This is the Building in Perth podcast with your two hosts, Chris Holland and Tony Hyde. If you're a property investor or you're curious about investing in property in Western Australia, this is the podcast for you. The reason for that is we're not going to hold back. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're certainly not going to bullshit you, and we're going to exploit everything that you need to know. Every month we're going to have special guests on, industry professionals, and then we're going to release an episode every single Monday. So you're not going to miss anything. So please stay tuned, like and subscribe so you never miss anything, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the Building in Perth podcast with your host Tony Hyde and
Chris Holland.
Really exciting again. We've got another industry expert. We've got Daniel Waters from Mitre. Hi Dan, how are you?
Tony, good to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great for you to come in. Appreciate it. So what we're going to cover off today with Mitre is a major supplier to the building industry with all sort of raw materials and stuff. We're going to debunk, tell you the truth, as we always do on this show. So Dan, would you like to just start us off with a little bit who you are, where you've come from and how you're in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from Victoria. So I'm not a natural West Australian, but I've been here for 20 years, and I entered the building industry about 15 years ago, coming from a sales background. And my family's been in the building industry back in Victoria as well. So we built quite a few properties over there, and I was introduced to that at a very early age.
Timber frame houses?
Timber frame houses, exactly. Yes, yeah. So, and that was one of the sort of the shocks is coming over, and we moved into our first place here in Nollamara.
Yep.
And it was brick, and it's you've got to hang a picture on the wall. How do you do that? So it's completely foreign, right. Coming from Victoria. But like I said, I've been in WA now for 20 years, and I've got to tell you, brick is sort of, it feels a lot more natural now than a stud and plasterboard construction to me. So a little bit different, and I reckon I'd struggle to hang a picture frame on the wall back in Victoria now. Yeah. So I've been in WA now for about 20 years with my wife. My wife and I moved over here some time ago, and I've been working for Mitre now for just over 12 months. Come across to them as the business development manager, drawing in some new business and just letting people know that Mitre there, we're out there, and what we do. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
there's other options. Yeah, most people just sort of jump with Bunnings, to be honest. In WA, they're the biggest supplier that I see most builders using, but you guys are obviously a great alternative, and especially when there was shortage of a lot of material supply recently, you must have seen a big transition of other people coming over and using you guys. Yeah,
absolutely. The shortage of materials is it's created a different kind of scenario where a lot of people are phoning around and looking for materials, availability. So you'll try a lot of different suppliers. So that alone sort of generates a lot of inquiry into our business.
Yep.
And in a sense, sort of saves myself as a salesperson going out there and generating that awareness. But it's surprising. You go out and talk to builders, and there's hundreds of builders in Perth for a small city. It's surprising how many are out there and how many just keep popping up that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And they don't know about us.
That's right.
That's right. So that's that's certainly where I come in.
Well, I was going to say, so in Victoria, Mitre 10's a big company, isn't it? It's massive.
Yes.
Well, over here, it's so small. Like you say, most builders wouldn't even know about Mitre 10.
Yeah, so Mitre 10, even around the metro area, there's only a few stores. We're the only trade store.
Farinosi's
do trade as well. Yeah, Farinosi's. Anderson's has just opened up in Hillary's. Farinosi's in the city. And we're in between. We're in Malaga.
There used to be one in Southlake, didn't there? There used to be one in Southlake, just around the corner from
Margaret River.
Down
south, right? So and there's a few other Mitre 10 stores in the regional areas. So the just to give you a bit of a background on Mitre 10, really, because the business has been around for 30 years, right? And the original owners, Dom Stilitano, is still the managing director of the business, and he comes in every morning. We're doing a lot of development work on the business. Building new offices and that sort of thing. Actually, next week we move into our new offices there. But the business has been around for 30 years. It's a family-run business, and we're now into our third generation as well.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about Mitre 10, we're not. It's not a national company like Bunnings.
Yeah, West Farmers.
They're owned by you might say mum and dad stores. They're owned by people.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a company structure that sits behind us. We've got 25 employees, 5 trucks on the road. We own a big parcel of land in Malaga that houses a lot of our trade products, and on that we also operate Mitre 10 operates a hub and spoke system by which you have in the centre you've got your hub distributor, and out from that you've got all your spoke stores, if you like. So we actually operate as one of those hub stores where we buy in bulk and then we resell that to the resellers outside of the metro area. So we've got that sort of backing behind us, but we need that kind of capacity, and that kind of I guess gives you an idea of the size of the business that we have in Malaga. It's actually quite surprising, very large, and it's grown over the 30 years to be quite sizable. Our showroom alone is 400 square metres.
Showroom's wicked, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You were there for the opening in
brilliant.
September.
Yep. I
you
recommend
opened
anyone to go and have a look. It's, 4, 5, 6 different ranges, is it, of tapware and stuff like that, kitchenware? It's not just the 1 or 2 products.
At least we've actually just introduced a new one on top of that as well, yes, at the premium end.
Yeah.
So we're just sort of, just getting a lot of different ranges in there.
Nice.
So, it's a good selection area.
Impressive. There's, standalone baths, and there's toilets. They've made up mini kitchens, but they're all different branded ones and stuff. Okay. So depending on your budget and stuff like that, you can get a good range. And so we actually send our clients to Mitre 10 to do our pre-start guide, and nothing but positive so far.
Yeah. So we've got brands.
And it's surprising. You would never even know it's there, right? Like, it's a proper showroom.
It is.
It's really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, it's got its own sort of separate entrance as well, and we often have people come in for the trade side of things, and they'll walk into the showroom and think they're in the wrong place, because it is a really nice. They're not expecting a trade store to be looking like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of different products in there. We've got a lot of different brands. Olivieri, we've got Sema, Fienza, Phoenix Tapware, Elder Tapware. So a lot of different brands just in the bathroom side of things, but then also we've got the doors, the Corinthian Hume doors. We do all those, and also the hardware, Gainsborough, Lockwood, Xander, just to name a few.
You've got kitchens now as well,
kitchens
don't you?
Are in there, yeah, we do, and that's a national product. Great thing about being associated with a national company is you get national buying power, but you also get a lot of new products that come through. So Principal Kitchens are one of those things that have come online, and it's been in the market for some time. It's locally made, Australian made flat pack kitchens. It's not really so much for the builders, although we're
South Australia, by memory?
Yeah, South Australia, made in South Australia. Yeah, it's not something that we sell a lot to the builders, so it is a little bit more direct to the market, which is why we've set up that showroom as well, to help paint that picture for the people who want to come in and renovate their kitchens. But maybe for you guys, you can, if you design a house,
we can incorporate it.
Yeah, within the right parameters,
dimensions and stuff.
You can fit in a flat pack kitchen. And the good thing that I've found, because I've actually put one of these flat pack kitchens, or I'm about to put one of these flat pack kitchens into my laundry, so it's a laundry as well. And there's a lot of different cabinet sizes, right? So there's a lot of flexibility. So generally, you can fit it within that space you've got. You just get in filler panels, just to make up any difference. Yep. So it's a really flexible system, and really nice product. Really nice finishes, great selection of handles. The hardware essentially in there is great quality. It's Hafele. Really well supported, both local support, national support. Again, another big company that sits behind that Principal Kitchen brand. So that's another great product for us, and draws a lot of inquiry.
Do you have the showroom that you've created in Malaga? Is that over east as well, or in Victoria? Do they have the showrooms that, say, investors could go and visit to get an idea of what they want to put in an investment house over here in Perth?
Yeah. So I was over in Melbourne earlier this year, and I was looking at a couple of different stores. I wandered into one other store, and absolutely you can go. These brands are universal, Australia-wide, right? So if you can get it over east, you can get it over here in Perth. So yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to go and do your pre-selection in a store over east, it's a little bit sort of cheeky, going to another store and doing using their yeah, exactly right.
Understand.
So you want to go in there well armed with what you know, and hopefully just confirming your selections, and that it looks good and it fits together nicely. I'm trying to be nice to the stores over there, trying not to waste too much of their time because we're getting the sale,
Totally get it.
But yes, you can absolutely do that. And another way of doing that is go direct. If you know what brands you want to use in your house, go direct to those brands. So if you want to use Gainsborough, ask Gainsborough, have they got a showroom in Melbourne or Sydney? And go to that brand because they're the ones that are getting those sales, and then you can spend the time with them, and they'll give you
spend as much time
as you want. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's a good question from Tony, and the reason that is a large majority of our builds are investors from over east, and Lorraine at Mitre 10's making us up a pre-start document at
Lorraine's
the moment.
Great.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. Really good.
Shout out to Lorraine.
Celtic fan, Tony.
Oh, Jesus.
But anyway, this pre-start document, so yeah, for it to be a national-wide pre-start document, it means that our clients, if they want, some investors don't mind, we'll just give them option A, B, and C. But if there are more hands-on investors, like we do have one, Tristan Wright, in Melbourne, he actually wanted to go and make some selections. So to put them into Mitre 10 over East, and we've got the same selections over here, then it's like a virtual pre-start, so it's pretty cool.
And I suppose having these showrooms is good for even if you're looking to build your own dream house or whatever, go and get an idea, some inspiration and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And I would say that if you are there at first home buyer or whatever going in there, let them know that you're just going for inspiration so that you're not wasting the guys' time out there. They're quite happy to let you walk around, but just so they know not to bother you. I suppose that's just fair and be honest. Yeah. No. So I think, we'll go back a little bit on. We'll go back to that little virus that we had cutting about a couple of years ago, that COVID-19 thing. If you haven't listened to episode 1, I'd strongly advise you go and listen. Stop now. Go and listen to it now. I don't know why
you wouldn't listen.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then come back, and then what we'll do here with Dan is Dan will go through the raw materials, the delays, and why the price increases and all that come through. Because the guy's a wealth of knowledge. I probably won't even need to ask that many questions. I reckon he will literally just smash it out. So Dan, just talk about the COVID-19, the grants, like what happened and how it impacted your industry and your areas.
Yeah. So, I'd like to start just by saying overall, no one's immune to this in any industry they work in. This isn't just the building industry. And just to give you a little example, I went down to even this Christmas, I went down to 7-Eleven to buy my iced coffee, and there was one left in there. The fridges were just about empty. There was one left in there, so it's just surprising how we're being impacted, not just by COVID-19, but also all the other issues that kind of weigh in on that, logistics, shipping, transport, that sort of thing, the cost of fuel for shipping and transport, the labour shortages, so it's an all-encompassing problem.
Well, that was the thing with the containers coming in and out of Perth. Normally, so the container price is about $240 or something to bring a container in, $240 out. What was happening is we weren't sending them back out empty, full, they were empty. Therefore, logistics were getting hit with double the price because stuff wasn't getting, and it just impacted. That's just one of the many million things that happened that caused increases in logistics that I know of.
One of the biggest sort of, things, sort of shock at the time was the price increases, the rate of price increases coming through
every month
was so rapid. And so we had to adapt as a supplier. We had to adapt to the way that we actually do price lists. And we used to do price lists where, yep, that's it. It's locked in for 12 months, sign the guarantee, all done and dusted. Well, we took all that off the table. We had to because we were getting price increases every month, every week.
From all the suppliers.
All the suppliers would send you a price increase letter. So it was off the scale. So then, you sort of start getting this coming through and it's okay, well, how do you adapt? And I think that's been the biggest kind of key kind of thing that everyone's had to do is just adapt to the situation, be flexible, look for alternative products, alternative suppliers. Where can I get this? Who can I get it off?
And then the stock being available as well, obviously. So price is one thing, but then actually having the physical stock available, and that always filters down to the builders. And then, unfortunately, some builders had to pass costs on to clients, and it's really sad, but it's legit. It was legit. These price rises were legit. It wasn't just.
The thing is,
builders being
W wasn't the only state or country in Australia that was having a boom in the real estate market. It wasn't. I mean, and we had all those disasters over east. We had the floods, the fires. All the supplies went to people that didn't actually have homes. Right. That's what it went to. Right. End of story. There was like, hold on, you want to get your house built? Well, you can wait a couple of months, unfortunately, because this family do not have a house.
That's right.
When you put it on the large scale things, would you really want to be, it's not great having to spend a few $100 on your mortgage, but it is, that's what happened. Yeah, so the supply issues, it wasn't just WA and Australia that get impacted with it all, right? It was every other country. We had all the natural disasters over east, that really impacted everything. It really impacted everything. And then the big thing, and I don't know if you can shed some light, but we had the rumours of tankers that were meant to be coming from China into Fremantle, and then there was money paid or whatever. I don't know, it's all rumours, and the tanker went straight past Frio and all the way up to Canada.
Yeah, like it was. This is the pine shortage, so there was a period there where we couldn't get any pine, as you know, and there was a shipment container full of pine coming from wherever, China or Papua New Guinea or something, I can't remember. And as it was coming to Australia, it got intercepted, and someone in Canada, let's say, doubled the price, and they just fucking turned around and went straight to Canada. So it was like a worldwide timber shortage, not just Australia. How true that is, well, not 100%.
There is some merit to this. There is some merit to this, and maybe not for pine, but maybe spruce, which is and cedar in particular. So what happened at the time is that the US shut down supply of cedar to the rest of the world. They wanted to keep it for themselves because there was a shortage, right? And then there's this worldwide building boom going on, right? And so America's turned around and said, well, we want to keep that spruce. So it might have been a case where America said, we've actually just stopped supply to the rest of the world. You can't deliver that. You have to bring that back.
Yeah.
Because Canada's one of the biggest suppliers. I say the US, but that area, Canada is one of the largest productions of spruce timber, So that there's a lot of merit in that. And then I've actually personally had this situation where I've been waiting on some product, and I for the life of me, I can't remember. It was 2 years ago, right, during the pandemic. We're waiting. I'm pretty sure. And apologies to Corinthian, but they did a great job in bringing it all together in the end. But I'm pretty sure it was a Corinthian door, AWOWS 19H, lovely front door, American white oak, coming in from overseas, and we're waiting on the container. And I get the update, and we've been waiting for months already, and the client's already quite upset at this stage, and we're waiting. The container, I get the information, the container's turned up at the Freo port. I keep the client informed, right? He says, great, okay, so we're only talking about a couple of weeks. Then a couple of weeks goes past, I get to place another phone call for an update. The container went to Melbourne. I'm like, what happened there? It actually got redirected, and this actually happened. It got redirected to Melbourne, then it's another 2 weeks to get shipped over, over on rail. And I have there was no.
They didn't give you a reason why.
A reason for that, it just didn't. They just decided that, but it was during the pandemic, so you can assume that there was staff shortages at the port, and that they had to redirect because a lot of stuff was being redirected at the time to Melbourne from memory. Yeah, but it kind of goes to show how integrated the supply chain is, and because it's so integrated and so complex, any one of those areas that breaks down can affect supply. Right now, we're definitely not immune to this in Western Australia because we've had the rail line go down time and time again, and there's a couple of avenues on rail where product can come through, and we're most recently well aware of a lack of supply via rail that's caused by a train accident. It happened about a month or two ago. I think it is now 2-3 months ago.
We've
maybe
had 3 in the last year. So SCT own all the internal supply chain rail lines in Australia. SCT Transport, and so nothing comes on rail except their carriages. So it comes into Abernethy Road there, and they've only got a certain amount they can allow in. So when I worked back in logistics before it was in this gig, we used to have a certain amount, and then we go, that's all you can get, and we had to find other alternative motors, which was like, it was road,
right,
and then trying to use road and stuff like that. But then if you remember, you go down, you come off the freeways, it's all corrugated iron roads. Cans of Coke and cans of Pepsi don't travel very well on these things, and they all get there and they're all smashed to bits. So in my old gig, that was some of the stuff that we had to deal with, and SCT just wouldn't increase the numbers because unless we paid top dollar, it was so they're
the only company.
They own all the internal railway lines in Australia, so they run it all because they can run it in the yard. Total monopoly.
Yeah. I
think it's probably the biggest pyramid scheme in logistics that there is, and all the guys have to go in their yards and take it out.
Yeah.
And how often would that happen, Tony? How often would you see a rail line go down?
You expect at least one a summer, 2 a summer. You would expect it because of how hot the railway lines get, but it can take a group of feral camels, and that'll do. No, they won't stop. They'll just go right through them. And if there's a group of feral camels on the railway, and it just happens to hit it and delodge it, off they go. Like seriously, or they could be going through roasting hot through water. It can be anything.
Yeah.
So there's loads of, but that's
We
what
got feral camels.
Yeah, there's hundreds of them. It was the Australian Army. It was a big funny thing. The Australian Army lost the war on was it emus, wasn't it? They tried to fight emus and lost. Google Australian Army versus emus, and they just couldn't get rid of the feral emus. Check it out. Anyway, we'll go back.
One thing that has been a positive, I think, for builders and clients regarding logistics and issues, it did absolutely open us up to being more selective with our supplier. For instance, like I wasn't using Mitre 10 prior to, well, probably when you came on board, maybe within a year ago or something, and never even knew Mitre 10, but never used you guys before. And then since then, obviously, we've never looked back. The communication and the service has been top quality, but we were forced into a position when we couldn't get the material from Bunnings or Colley or Independent Timbers or whoever it was or whatever the product was, to go and look at alternative suppliers. So
that's kind of where it comes down to I think the business itself. So Versatile Mitre 10, it's a question of what can Versatile do for me? How hard are they going to work to go out and find that product? And then for us, it's for me personally, it comes down to a question of what's my relationship like with my suppliers, right? So I like to try and maintain a really good relationship with our suppliers, so that when we need them, we don't call on them and ask for favours very often at all. Okay, there's price negotiations, everything else to go on, but we don't really call on a favour very often. So when we do, they're there for us, And I think having those strong relationships counts for a lot, because that then supports you guys. Insulation's been a big problem. Knauf withdrew from the Western Australian market. That left CSR and Fletcher's, or Bradford's, and Fletcher's in the market to supply. And so you take one block out of that puzzle piece, and then these other two suppliers have got to try and support the Western Australian market with their existing production facilities. It's not been easy for them, But I've got to say credit in particular to shout out to Jess at Fletcher's. She's been amazing. She's actually I'm losing her. She's going over east. She's been too good, and they poached her, and she's going to Sydney. But I've called her in 99% of the time, she's found what we've needed to get that to the builder to get the job done. So, that's one example of a really good relationship, that can help kind of, get things through the system. Get jobs over the line.
Get
jobs over the line. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
100%. Like, just again, this is all about you. So another shout out to Dan at Mitre 10 again. Even my own personal deck at home, I don't know, 40 square meters of decking or whatever. I was pretty specific with what board I wanted, and I said to Dan, I only want long lengths. We can't. This batch of timber comes in mixed lengths, but Dan actually held me up an extra few days to go through and select all the long straight pieces of decking instead of getting 1800 and 2-1 pieces. Perfect, you know what I mean? So that's only because of the good communication and I guess the ethical value that you guys carry in your company. So again, you've got all my business anyway. So I recommend anyone to give them a shot.
And that's I just got to say, that's not just me. We've got a team of people in there. So like I mentioned before, we've got 25 employees. I work very closely with Adam in the office. He's our internal sales guy, and he coordinates a lot of that stuff with the guys that are packing and putting all those orders together. So, it takes a team to do all that. It's certainly a shout out to all our staff members that support, us in our roles, Yeah.
Yeah, I just call you, and then you make it happen. But that's the team that you guys have got in there, So, and again, like Lorraine and her pre-start selection guides, brilliant.
So as we're kind of going through this boom, and I suppose we're still in the boom, the building side of the boom, right? So we've seen some supplies that have been out of stock. What supplies are coming back in, and what supplies do you think we're going to see some issues with? You mentioned insulation right now. What's the future like? Is it tiles? Is it tapware? Like, because I know we're getting to the point, the end of the stick with a lot of those builds. They're all getting to the finishing point of it. So now, are we going to start to see that? Like, because I know we're starting to think about we're struggling for roof carpenters, tilers, roof plumbers, the kind of end sort of parts of the build. Are you seeing that?
The great thing about all your second fix is that they've had the time to get themselves organised. They've known that the tsunami's coming, and so like Gainsborough were talking about this 12 months ago, right? And they've built up their stocks, to make sure that they can still cope with it. Yeah. So I know there's suppliers out there, a lot of suppliers out there, second fix guys that are aware of that, and they've acted in advance to make sure there aren't any shortages. So I can't foresee any shortages there. Probably, we're going to see an easing in supply, with the exception of any other natural disasters or any other wars that are going on. Viruses, I can see an easing in supply of timber. Timber's actually sort of leveled out nicely. You guys would probably know a little bit more. It's good now.
Yeah, it's good now. Yeah, it's
what's your
readily
sort of lead
available.
time? Are you getting sort of 4 to 8 weeks?
4 weeks, I can get a full roof delivered. Yeah, that's right.
So the prices come down there.
Yeah, the prices are not coming down yet.
Yeah. We can't see that happening. Certainly, prices are not going to return to pre-pandemic levels anytime soon. We've still got pressures on fuel costs.
There's a lot of builders trying to recoup some money here, right? And suppliers, they broke even. They need to try and make some money. We're all in business at the end of the day. I think that's a fair assumption that they'll just
keep it as is. Yeah,
as is. Yeah.
So your main structural components, I guess your timber versus brick, right? So, and that's something that I know you guys have talked about on previous podcasts. And one of the things, I guess, timber's eased up. That's great. But keep in mind, obviously, you got Coburn Cement. They're a local producer. And I think there's a lot to be said about local manufacturing as well. Not jobs and that aside, just talking about maintaining prices. So if you don't have to transport the product very far, then they can maintain costs. Coburn actually sit on their natural resource. It's right there, so they don't have to transport it to the factory. I don't get into the brick side of things, but that's local manufacturing as well.
It is as well, yeah, Midland Brick, yeah.
Yeah, so, and obviously that's where I think, brick has been a big thing for Western Australia.
Oh, for sure. We've got the resources here to supply the whole of Australia. We do.
There's no shortage in timber either.
No, that's right.
The shortage is not in the product itself when it comes to timber. There is heaps of radiata pine out there.
Yeah.
And the shortage is in the staff in manufacturing and the production facility. I think it's Stacks are increasing their production. They're extending their factory.
Yeah.
So that bodes well for the timber industry and timber builds.
I can't remember the ratio. I think it's 1 to 10. There's one person needed to 10 in the timber manufacturing process in terms of jobs available for Australians as opposed to brick, because obviously brick is all machined, right? And then it's picked and packed and whatever with human labour. But there's a lot more business available in the timber manufacturing area than brick for sure, which is obviously better for local communities and stuff like that. But I know particularly with timber, it's back to being readily available.
And without a doubt, we've seen a big move, and the pandemic has really pushed this, or the building boom, let's say, has really kind of nudged the framed construction, both in steel and timber.
Yeah.
So it's really given it a huge nudge. So I'm seeing a lot more kind of steel roofs out there as well, brick and steel roofs.
I'd say 50% now, to be honest. Yeah, it's completely changed.
It's been a big change in the past, 3-4 years?
For sure. And then 1 in 10 maybe.
Yeah. And a lot more timber construction, completely timber construction. So, and I think it's a really interesting area. There's going to be a crossover between, your timber construction and I guess the competition coming from the brick build side of things versus your 7-star energy rating. Yeah.
Which is going to be, it's going to be
next year.
Yeah. And it's going to be imminent. Like you can't not get past it. It's going to be the new normal, which it already is in Melbourne. 7-star. 6-star at the moment in Melbourne. I think it's 6-star over East at the moment is the bare minimum you're allowed. Over here it's 5-star, and then it's going to change to 7-star.
What's it? So, question both of you is this. So we go double brick, right? So which we're not a fan of. Me and Chris are not a fan of. I think you're probably same as us, right? There's better construction methods, and that's probably episode 3 go and watch that if you haven't. Disgrace on you. But if we're going like energy ratings, putting double brick in, we know that our energy rating's lower than a timber frame construction. So what has to be done if you build double brick? What would you have to do extra? Because this is going to be a cost on the buyer of what you want, right, to get it to that rating.
You get an energy efficiency report done, and that gives you options of what you can upgrade. So you can put cavity insulation in between the bricks and the cavity, and that instantly helps massively. It helps things. But there's many things, but there's so many different factors of the location of where it is, and it all depends on, to be honest, the construction method. It was always just 90% double brick, but now that, like Dan says, the pandemic kind of shifted us to have other options available. Otherwise, houses were going to take
people to take those options.
It did, yeah. Otherwise, it was going to take 3 years to build a house. So there's lots of other things that you have to add in to depend. But to get a 7-star energy rated double brick house, I'm not sure. I think you would need double glazing as a minimum, which I think is a standard now anywhere in the world except Western Australia, which is ridiculous because we've got such a hot climate and 80% of your heat loss is through your windows and doors. It should be a standard. I mean, there's one company, the Scott Park Group, they do it deliberately. It's a big market employ that they've got, B1 101 residential and the Scott Park Group. There's one more, I think, that's under that umbrella. But yeah, they do double glazing as a standard. That definitely helps your energy rating. But as a natural, just 4x2, this exact same house, it's about 1.5 stars better just being timber. Metal is not as good of a heat conductor as timber, obviously. The best way I think to look at the 3 options is if you lay a brick and you lay a bit of steel and you lay a bit of timber in the sun on a 40-degree day, there's only one of them that you can pick up with your hand and it doesn't hurt you. So it's a good heat conductor and whatever else.
I feel there's a whole other episode on this that we should probably do on 7-star.
You know how I feel about it. And it's not that I dislike double brick, by the way. It's not that I dislike, but coming from my past, which was renovations, the amount of times where clients have said, fuck, I just want to, excuse my language, clients have just said, I want to knock that wall down, and you can't because of the construction method of double brick and a stick roof. They're all load-bearing walls, so it's actually a lot of effort to get a big steel beam up there and prop the roof up, knock that wall down. If you go to a frame construction, you can knock every internal wall down pretty much if you're going to truss roof, you know what I mean? So I just think for modifications, patching, wiring, less mess, efficiency, speed, eco-friendly, sustainable material, it all ticks for me is timber. But anyway, that's a different story. You always get me going on that.
And it's really hard having experienced the transition coming across from Victoria with your stick builds to brick builds, having spent 20 years here. I'm really comfortable with brick. It's hard for me to say, but I love the idea of having a 7-star or higher rating on my house because you're looking at lower costs, so electrical bills and the rest, and just more comfortable living space. So it has a lot of merit, and I think at the end of the day, like if I don't know, you guys would know that. How do you go with clients that come in and you're pushing your stick builds. Yeah. I mean, I know you do brick as well, right? You do both. So you can work with the client either way. But how do they receive?
Honestly, we've got one Ainsley who's building with us, and, price point was another thing. So timber for us is cheaper. I can build timber houses significantly cheaper than a double brick house, just purely because we have the in-house carpenters available. So, and
your build speed is faster as well, right? Because I was talking to Morgan yesterday. You got 4 months on a. You just reached 4 months. You're looking at another one that's sitting at 5 months.
Correct.
So
more than 6 months. Yeah.
It's less than half.
Yeah.
So like a good build time for brick.
And the thing is, if the price is similar to brick and timber, but you're only taking 6 months to build the house as opposed to 12 months, well, the client is then paying interest-only repayments on the construction for the additional 6 months if it's a double brick. And obviously, as you're building this, every stage that you get to or stage claim, your repayments go up a little bit and up a little bit. So once that builder's got to plate height or lockup, you're paying 50% of your mortgage, but interest only for another 6 months. So it actually equivalates to about 20 grand extra is what it costs you to go double brick on the interest repayments, you know what I mean? Not the actual figure of the contract value, how much it physically costs you. Plus you're paying your own rent or mortgage at the same time, so it can be quite uncomfortable.
We'll take our time to educate the client on all the different methods and whys and yes and no's, and then really leave it up to them. We try and go, are you sure? We've done that with that client, Ainsley. We do give them all of them. That's part of what we do here at the House and Land Expert and CC West and stuff, is to make sure that you've got the information, and whatever you want to do,
you get what you want.
At least you got what you wanted.
Because we don't push them. We don't push them to timber. We just give them the information. That's it. And like we've got a job for Jessica and Tony in South Guildford, and that has to be double brick because of the flight path. Yeah, and it's got to have 13mm soundproof plasterboard ceilings and upgraded insulation and all this sort of jazz. So there are benefits to both construction methods. It's more now realizing it's not just one construction method the way it's always been. So yeah, different locations will suit different build methods, and yeah.
Where I get excited about your stick builds is you get into the passive house side of things, you know. Yeah. So you can really you can take it from a standard stick build and you can amp it up and do double stud. You can add breathable liners and all these sorts of things, and air tightness and air exchange systems, all this sort of thing, and really ramp it up as well. So that's where it's certainly the future is.
It's going to be
it needs
eventually,
to be,
yeah.
Right, you know, and so it'll go in that direction. So the space that you're sitting in is really great. You just got to, I guess, you've got the job of converting. Educate the clients and convincing them.
There's another method of construction I love, and it falls under the timber category. But have you heard of SIPS, SIPS, SIPS Industries? And I mean, if I could afford it, I would build it. It's a German product, and it's insulated foam panels meshed with like chipboard, or not chipboard, but some sort of timber timber.
They use this. You can use chipboard. It's actually WeatherTex, which comes in a lot of different. You guys have used, WeatherTex. You've used it recently. I think a weatherboard. Look, so they do a lot of different pressed panels. That's made by Carter Holt Harvey. I think it's in New Zealand, right? They manufacture that, so it's a local-ish product, so they'll put that on the outside for that. You can have like a timber look, or you can go to a painted finish if you like, but it's usually a flat flush panel, and then you can actually fix off on the front of that. You can fix off to the SIP panel as well to get that weatherboard look, so you can batten it out and put weatherboards on if you want to,
and make it breathable as well.
Yeah, or you can use most of the SIP panels I see out there are fibre cement. All right, so they have fibre cement on either side, and they key into each other, and there's a structure that sits behind that as well. Very, very energy efficient.
100%. And these panels, if you're going to go skillion roofs or have big open plan living, which everyone likes now, these panels can act as your ceiling and roof. They can span for, depending on the thickness, they can span up to 9 meters without any support under it. So it's huge, like it's massive. So you can get creative with your design and all this type of stuff, where again with brick and steel beams and stuff like that, you're limited, you know what I mean? You have to support what's above you. But
and so the next step towards that, from where you're at, is using like an EPS panel.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okay, and there's the Masterwall system, right? And so Masterwall has the ability to do supply and install, and it's a complete system. So they supply an EPS panel that's pre-coated with like a base render and some mesh, right? And then you've just got to render over the top of it to cover up gaps and this sort of thing. Well, there's an alternative product on the market as well, which is you buy your EPS panel, and so the build you can split this up. So
then you trouble on yourself.
Yeah, exactly right. So you can get your own renderer. You can have your carpenter install the EPS panel. We might have to talk about this a bit further later on.
Yeah.
But you can you can buy the EPS panel, have your carpenter install that, and then you can render, mesh, and render. You've got to have the mesh in between so that the render doesn't reduces any chance of cracking.
We do have to speak about it. We've got a long list of granny flats from an investment company in Queensland, and we've get 2 or 3 a month at the moment. So we're actually going down the EPS panel route on those granny flats at the moment. Masterwall, they do supply and install. I actually offered to install on behalf of Masterwall, but the square meter rate they offered me was not worth our time. But yeah, it's great great product, great service. But I definitely will look at that option for sure to see if we can save the client a bit more money.
Yeah, it's often used as an alternative to using fibre cement. A lot of builders on stick builds will use fibre cement. You're doing this fibre cement, and then you've got to patch up the joint in between the fibre cement, and then render over that. And then what happens with the expansion and contraction? You can get cracking. Can get cracks, yeah.
There's a 3-course Dulux system that prevents that though. It's like a sealer binder thing that we were talking about, where a lot of builders will skip past that part because it's an additional cost, but there is a warranty by Dulux if you use the Acrotect. If you use the 3-coat system, it prevents that cracking. So we use that additional cost, but yeah, obviously it still expands and contracts. But the Mastervolt product as well was solid. Like if you've ever knocked on it, I mean, it's hard stuff.
And your investors who are listening from over east will probably be a little bit more familiar with that. So there's a lot of that going on over there where it's kind of like you've got that rendered look on the outside, and you knock on it and it's solid. It takes a fair whack to dint it. It is a solid EPS, so expanded polystyrene. Your white foam essentially, but it's a high density foam. So it is quite solid.
You can use them as little awnings over windows and stuff like this. And actually, if you go so there's 50 mil, 75, 100, 125, 150 mil panels, and I think the 100 mil panel has a weight range of 170 kgs per square meter. So you can actually put these things as an awning sticking out from your house and stand on them. And yeah, it's pretty cool. You can get quite creative with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we can explore that. For us, that's not a product that we're actively selling. What we sell is the rock coat system to render over that. So we've got like a patch and prep product. We've got the mesh, and we've got the render that put over that. So we deal with a lot of renderers in the Perth market, but it's a great system. Design and Wall, Jason, Design and Wall is one of the renderers that apply that entire system. So they'll install the EPS board. He's too busy at the moment, I'm sorry, but that's the idea, is that if you break it up, you don't have one.
You don't need him to do it all.
Like Mastervolt, you break it up, and then you have the flexibility to say, I'm going to buy that product, and your chippy's going to install it, or you're going to train your renderer to do the install of the EPS panel and render it, so you get a complete package from them. And so that's the idea, is just to change it up. And this kind of comes back to what we were talking about before, just being a little bit more nimble, or offering alternatives to give better access to all these different products in whatever shape fits your project, or your build style. So yeah.
That's good.
So from over the pandemic, you always see new innovations, new products. Somebody comes up with a great idea because there's a shortage here. What's probably one or two of the products that you're seeing innovation-wise, or new product releases that you saw come through going, geez, that was a great idea? Because it always happens, doesn't it? If we're really downturn, there's always somebody comes up with a great idea.
Yeah. Well,
I think that was one that we just spoke about. I think that was one, for sure.
Definitely. That definitely came out of the it's more conversation with a client that we have that already does it, and he's interested in sort of selling the EPS panel, because they've got the distribution for this product, so we would need to buy it off them to then resell it. So in terms of innovation. What's that saying about something is the mother of all invention, or
you're good at quizzes, you should know.
Roger.
Yeah. Well, I think the pandemic's sort of given us that.
If you know what that phrase is, comment and share, and we'll give you a free hat.
Yeah, there you go.
Dan will give you a free hat.
yeah, I'll have to pull one out. So, anyway, the pandemic's sort of forced that upon us. So, in terms of innovation, I think we're looking at with the 7-star rating coming along. That's really a key component to how do we achieve that? What products do we need to achieve that? So I know what's falling out of the calculations for your energy efficiency rating right now is the loss of energy from the side of the slab. So under slab insulation. And insulating the side of the slab, and there's a system that we're working on at the moment that gives you a combination of your black plastic underneath the slab, a foil for insulation, Yep. No, it's literally, this is where, So, and then pods in slab pods or buckets. No, black buckets, basically plastic buckets, HDP buckets, okay, to reduce the amount of concrete you use, okay, and you combine this system together, and then that increases your efficiency rating. Yeah. The saving in
so you're saving in cement, but you're paying on the foil insulation board, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so it comes out. Look, I think it's going to come out a little bit more expensive than the current method, but you've got to get to that 7-star rating. So that's got to come from somewhere, But it sort of balances it out with a bit of a savings in there as well. And then on top of that, what we're looking at is, and this is still. We're still working on this, but it's pretty close, is FRP bar. So FRP, fibre reinforced polymer. It's essentially like a fiberglass Rio bar. So it's an alternative to steel, and we know the price of steel has gone up significantly. All right, getting this, it only comes in individual rods. All right, so you have to tie it together on site. So that's the major downfall. Is that the labour on site. There's additional labour on site, but also the grano workers look at it and go, well, I'll just put down mesh. I don't want to put down individual rods and have to tie it up, right? So for a ground floor slab, it might be a bridge too far. Second story slabs, from what I understand, that's all individual Rio bar that's laid out. Yep.
Yeah, generally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then there's an opportunity there, right? When we come back to...
So that's just replacing the steel with this fiberglass.
Yeah, it looks like a Rio bar, but it's white in colour, and you can see all the fibres in it, and it's kind of like got a sandy grit to it, so it helps it adhere to the concrete, and it's a lot lighter. Right, so easy to lift, easy to carry around. So this is, but it's like 1/3 of the price of steel, right? So yeah. Oh, sorry, 1/3 less.
You could. I'm just thinking because I love this. I love these new innovative ideas. I think there's nothing stopping you if you've got a little factory like we do downstairs, laying them out and actually making your own mesh panels. You can get the apprentice down there tying it together and then transport them to site. So then the concreters can just chuck them down quickly, like they're used to. I've never heard of that, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I'm working with Perma Composites on this. They're out in Wangara, so that's their head office for Australia. They're a national company, but they do a lot of FRP to mine sites. So the safety standards that have to go into mine sites. So they work at that kind of level. And so they're looking at this product and they're saying, okay, well, there's an opportunity for this. We're looking at becoming the distributor for that product in Western Australia because Perma Composites, they are... wholesalers only, so they need a retailer to move it on. That's us. So essentially, that's what we're sort of starting with. The way we're looking to get this into the market, and I've got a meeting tomorrow about this, is to get it in with retaining wall guys. So retaining wall guys use a lot of steel in their post and panels. So this is precast retaining wall post and panel. It's all over town, and they use a huge volume of steel. So replacing that with an FRP bar is going to make it a little bit lighter and more cost effective for those guys who are manufacturing. So that gives us the volume to get it into the market because it's got to come in container loads. All right, and then once we've got it in stock, then we can talk to builders. There's one builder I know in particular who tried to put it into a second story build, but he couldn't get supply. It had to come from over east, and to get it from over east, because they're already using this over east in there's a lot of different applications, footpaths and all this sort of thing. So he to get that from over east was too costly too expensive for freight. So
but once you can sell it here, then
different story. Yeah, if we drop the container in direct, then that makes it more cost effective.
Is that just the compressed plastic then, the composite?
It's not. It's not a composite as such, because a composite's like layered. So this is mixed. The way it comes through the factory essentially is this big long line that produces this. I think it's a 5.8 meter bar, and it can be like 8 mil, 10 mil, 12 mil thick. And then it has all these kind of strings, all the fiberglass strings that come down, and it kind of like gets extruded together. right? So not quite a composite. It's pretty much like, it's fiberglass. Like if you were to do a fiberglass repair, it's very similar material, is my understanding. I don't get into the science of it. Yeah. So that's the space to watch. Another great little innovation that we made, and it wasn't because of the pandemic or anything like that. It's just because, we're interested in trying to improve things, I guess. So we've got a production facility in Malaga that produces plaster mouldings. Okay, so we've been doing that. That was one of the first portions of our business, because we started out doing supply and install in doing plasterboard in high-rise buildings all over Perth. That's how Dom got started in the business, is doing supply and install. Then he found out he could resell the plasterboard because he was buying such big volumes, getting good prices. He could resell it, and that's kind of how Stilitano's, then now Versatile, started. Well, the plaster mouldings factory was part of that, so we were manufacturing back then all our cornices, ceiling roses, fireplaces, all these sort of things. So what we've done in our production facility now is we've introduced an additive that makes the plaster mouldings lighter. Okay, and so particularly for larger pieces, it makes it easy to install. But even on, like, if you've got a thicker cornice that you're putting up, and it's a decent sized cornice, it weighs quite a lot. Yeah, it's quite heavy, right? So we've got an additive in there now that makes that lighter. So keeps it strong, absolutely. And actually, the back of it is, when you turn it over, it looks like it's smooth on the face. On the back, it's kind of like oatmeal, right? It looks like oatmeal. It's a little bit rough, right? Exactly. Yeah. So, and it's old technology, but we've kind of just reintroduced that.
So if I go in and do an old Fremantle renovation and I cut a bit of this cornice out, can you custom it? Can you match it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when I give you, like, say, a metre length of this off-cut of cornice, you'll be able to match that, and then...
We get it all the time. People walk in with their dusty, and sometimes they come in with just a tiny little slither, or sometimes it's 600 mil long lengths. They'll bring it in, and we take them down. We take them down to the factory, and we match it up with exactly what's on the shelf. If we don't have it there, we can also make the mould for it.
You can make the mould, yeah,
at an additional cost.
Yeah, of course. That's interesting, because I'd done a renovation in Beaconsfield a few years back, and I could not find this brand of cornice anywhere. Like, the client didn't have the addenda for the build. It was an owner builder, blah, blah, blah. Had no idea. I cut this piece and I took it around every supplier I could find. Eventually I did get lucky, and it was in Beaver Lake, right around the corner of this shop I never even knew existed, that does cornices, but that would be obviously a lot easier if I could just take that. Yeah, it was. That's right. Yeah. Exactly. But that would be a lot easier and save me weeks of time, just by taking it to you guys, if you can press it yourself. That's interesting. Yeah, it's very good. That's good. I'm very interested in the concrete thing that you're saying, because I know over East there's a concrete method, and I'm not sure the thickness exactly, but they use big foam pods. Yes. To act as your slab, and then they pour a little bit of concrete over the top, and it's less volume, but it's energy efficient, obviously, as well. So that first method that you're talking about with the bucket sounds similar. So really interested.
The idea of the buckets, I'm trying to remember the name of the manufacturer. It's Bricks or something like that. And the idea of the buckets is they're stackable. So with your foam, the issue with your foam, particularly with transportation, and we can actually get, there's a local manufacturer and cutter of EPS foam, but you want a tested system. It's got to meet Australian standards and all the rest of that. You can't just cut a piece of, it's got to be with the right density and all the rest of this. But the issue with transporting the foam, obviously, is that it's bulky. It's light, but it's bulky, right? The buckets stack together, so they all nest together. So you can fit an entire house lot into a boot, into a small ute. So it's that works for us. That works for us. Yeah.
And concrete's obviously, it's not super expensive. The Rio is, so you're reducing the cost of the volume of concrete needed, obviously, and then obviously if you can mix it with this fiberglass. Whatever, then that's...
And it'll eventually become cheaper and cheaper over time as well, right? As there's more demand, more supply.
Well, the labour they'll get used to it. The labour install will become a norm, and it won't be too crazy. That's really good.
The next step down this path as well, which I think this will interest you, is that you can actually, there's potential for you to remove the beams, the edge beams in the slab, right? So you have a tabletop, You lay your slab like a tabletop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you can do this with the FRP bar. This is what I've been told at the moment. The training that I'm getting and the information I'm getting through from these guys is that there's potentially where you can just have a tabletop slab, so no edge beam. So again, there's savings there.
Yeah.
Right? Don't ask me how or why, what the engineering is, right? But and this is the great thing about dealing with people like Permacomposites, is they have an in-house engineer that does a lot of this work, so they're working pretty hard on finding, the applications and the pathway to market and all that sort of thing. So
that's interesting.
It is very interesting. Yeah.
Because we see a savings in just concrete cost by building a framed house rather than a double brick, because we don't need footings and the thickness of the slab can be less, and we don't need extra strips down the guts like some double brick houses, depending on if it's a tiled roof or whatever. But because of the weight loads as compared to a framed house to double brick, you can save up to 10 grand in concrete. It's like, so this would save even more money on concrete again. So that's interesting.
They'll say get site works to a proper cost rather than a bumped up cost. Let's not go down that one. Not today.
No, that's awesome. But ultimately, that comes back to, obviously that's going to help your energy efficiency as well, right? So that's only a win for the client. No, that's good. That's very good.
So when we have our industry experts on, we always love them to give us their bits of advice, something they know that they help any client. So primarily investors and first home buyers and second home buyers is what we're in. So what's your bit of advice? And I want you to kind of focus on, maybe let's cop out pre-start, because pre-start is an area that we don't get too, me and Chris don't get too heavily involved because we're not marriage counsellors and we certainly don't want to be doing that kind of thing. But what would be something, and you might shout at me this, we sometimes tell them that you go and start getting your ideas from Pinterest and stuff, with the recommendation of just get colours and ideas.
Tony, I know you like Pinterest. Everyone loves Pinterest. There's a lot of pretty pictures on there.
Yes, it looks pretty. Can you do that for me?
Exactly, yeah. And that's where it can fall down sometimes with Pinterest.
Let's get the expert advice from you. So let's talk about investors and then jump over to if you're buying your house for yourself.
Yeah. Well, the pre-start and the design of what you're trying to create, it depends on where you're coming from. So what are you looking at designing? I think you start from a big picture aspect. So what is the overall style that you're going for, right? So you start with the big picture and then you kind of work it down into the smaller components. So what is that big picture, that design element made up of, right? And then you can start looking at suppliers and looking at products and those sort of things, so it's an involved process, and there's a lot to look at. And it's not just about selecting the look of the product, the colours and the pretty stuff. That's really fun to do. But it's also, where am I going to put my PowerPoints? Where is this furniture going to go? And there's so much to consider. You really need to get involved in the build. I think that is so important, particularly, I think with sometimes I deal with builds that involve investors and they're not too fussed. Right, and so they don't get in as involved. They leave a lot of that up to the builder, which is fine, right? And that's gonna work out fine. But if you want to get more involved into the design and the build, and what you're trying to create has an element of design to it, you're trying to put, as an investor, you're trying to put your own spin on it. Then that's where you want to get more involved and start.
I think so, and you'll get more of a return if there's an added edge to your design as opposed to the one next door, and they're both up for rent or whatever, or sale or whatever. Like the more you put in, it's like anything. The more you put in, the more you get out. I think so.
So the easiest way of doing it is to engage an interior designer. A designer. Get a designer involved, because they do it every day of the week. It's like having a trade install a door versus yourself installing a door. Paint a house, exactly right. So you want to if you're using a trade, it's going to take it's going to be more efficient on time, product, all this sort of thing. They know the tricks, they know where to go to get the different styles and stuff that you're looking for, and they've probably put that style house together before, right? So it's kind of like it's not necessarily rinse and repeat, but they'll take that model and apply it to your structure, your house. So getting a designer involved, I think, is a really good thing to do. I understand you're doing a little bit of that yourself.
We do that, yeah. We offer that, yeah. We've got a designer that meets with the client and absorbs all the stress out of us as builders, to be honest, and then we give them, obviously, or we work together, then give them the price differences with these additional items. But yeah, I think a designer's a no-brainer. You're spending $300,000 on a house, what's an extra $800 for a proper consult and a face-to-face service? And we give our clients and investors 3D renders so they visually see what it's going to look like as well, the color selections, and again, it's just that little bit extra care.
But this is the thing, right? You can have a designer involved. It still doesn't mean that you don't get involved in the build, because you still have to make those selections. You still have to. If you're moving to the house, you're living in that house, right? Sometimes the decisions you make can feel a lot more important. Right, because you're going to have to live there. But also, it's keep in mind, it's your design that you're putting into the house. It's your house. Whatever you choose, you're going to have to live with it, right? And chances are, if you choose it, you like it. When you move in, you're going to like it, right? So in that respect, there's no wrong decisions. But I think where you can make where you can make a wrong decision is that if you're not looking at all the different aspects of the build, not necessarily like the Rio bar and the concrete, but certainly just the design aspects, the function and the design, the appearance. So what is it going to look like? How are you going to live in the house? So
does it work for your family? Don't just pick one off the plan that a builder wants to force down your throat if it doesn't work for how you like to live. A big one's a theatre room. Like I find with our clients, investors don't want theatre rooms because it's a wasted room. They would rather make that into a bedroom. So you can rent it out to bigger families. Like a 5-bedroom house goes for more than a 4-bedroom house. So just for having that theatre room there, as opposed to a 5th bedroom, is money in their pocket. But a client who lives in it and maybe got 2 or 3 kids, they would love a theatre room, so you could chuck the kids in there, shut the door and put a movie on at night time and whatever else. So yeah, I think you've got to get involved in pre-start.
Yeah. And if you're getting to the point, if you decide not to use interior design and stuff, have an idea of a colour schemes and kind of styles you want, and then trust the pre-start consultants. They're really bloody good at what they do. And just say, if you go with nothing, they're going to struggle to work with you. But if you've got, this is what I like these colours, these black, and you can just tell them, I only want to use the builder's range. Tell them you don't want to. They're fine with that. You'll always try and get upsold, but just tell them I'm only doing the builder's standard range. Yeah. They won't mind, and they'll help you, because then they've got a clear direction. These people are doing it all the time, and they'll absolutely nail it for you. Like, because
even within the builder's range, you've still got to choose, okay, am I going to have a round escutcheon on my door handles or a square, and then, okay, well, what's your selection for your taps? Did you go round or square, or basins? Are they round or square? Just simple things like that,
Towel rail or a towel ring, like it all actually matches, doesn't it?
Exactly, right. So that's where you do get involved. You can get involved, and you can get excited and engage with these sort of things, because there is a lot to decide on. There's lots to decide on.
Just don't go blank. Don't go with nothing and expect the pre-start consultant to do it for you, because they'll just give you their styles and mind what you want. Spend a couple of hours, whatever, just getting an idea of what you want. Trust me, you'll have a way more fun time doing it if you know roughly what you want. Yeah. And for investors, we've got a few of them just go, we trust you to just put nice clean lines in there and make it nice and sharp for renting, and we do that. And then the pre-start consultants are pretty good at sorting that out for us as well.
So it can be, because it's so important. It's such an important. There are a lot of decisions to make. Tiles. We don't sell tiles, but just your bathroom products, your taps, your door handles, your doors,
shower screens, mirrors.
Yeah, well, that's all these sort of things, right? There's so much to choose from. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, but definitely just take the time and try and enjoy the process, and when you're involved with your partner, your husband, your wife, just sort of, you got to kind of just let everyone's kind of opinions kind of just soak in, and I don't know, because it can be because it's some people can feel it's such an important decision. There can be a lot of tension,
Well, we all know, don't we? You make a decision, you decide, and then you do exactly what your wife tells you to do, right?
Yeah. Well,
and then you have a happy life.
Well,
On three, we'll choose the colour scheme. 1, 2, 3, black, white.
they say that, but then are you going to sit there as a guy? Are you going to sit there, biting your fingernails in the house, going, "Oh, we should." I told her. So that's where I say, like, you got to get involved, And if you're not going to get involved, then it's like voting, right? If you're not going to vote, you don't have an opinion, right? So it's the same with your pre-start, But I'd encourage people to get involved because it's a great journey. I think design. Your goal is really just to design something beautiful. It's for you in your life, and or if you're an investor, it's the same thing. It's something beautiful for your tenant,
Yeah,
so
exactly. Something that's going to rent out.
Because if something presents as low spec, well, you're going to attract a low spec tenant. I would suggest, So if you want to just get a little bit involved, it doesn't have to be, you're spending a lot of money, but just to get involved and just assist the process along. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot on pre-starts we could talk about.
I know.
I've spoken to people.
I'm just mindful of time.
That could be a whole different segment.
So
it could be, yeah. So
I think on that thing, that's probably a good time to kind of wrap up.
Yeah,
unless
for sure.
there's anything, Dan, that you're burning to tell us, we really appreciate you coming in.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk about Versatile Mitre 10 and our new hub, which opened up in September. It is it's brand spanking new. We've got some great products in 400 square meters. You can get lost in there. Our manufacturing facility for cornices. So again, when you're doing your selections on your house, your pre-start, that sort of thing, most of the time it's just a plain cove cornice. So have a think about, okay, if you are doing Hamptons, maybe upgrade your cornice as well. A lot of that doesn't get a lot of people don't think about that. So when you're coming through our selection facility there, you can see all those products together. And I think that's a big thing. There's not many showrooms around Perth, that combine, doors, door hardware, bathroom products, kitchen appliances, all that sort of thing. Look, I really appreciate you having me on the show today. Thanks for
appreciate you coming in.
Welcome, mate. Yeah, you're welcome.
And what's one thing you're looking forward to in 2023 this year, personally?
Personally,
moving into your home,
So I've just taken the keys just before Christmas to my house, and I've been working over the Christmas break installing a lot of doing painting, installing cornice, flooring, all that sort of thing. So a lot of work has gone into it. We're moving this weekend, so looking forward to getting in there and settling down. I think for Versatile, where I'm, it's a family business, third generation, and I'd really like to see us put a stake in the ground for that third. I mean, the business is going to be there, no doubt about it. But things like these new products that we've talked about today, I think is going to be a really big, make a really big difference to the business. So I'm looking forward to bringing a few new things to the Perth market and making some small changes.
Can't wait to see them. Can't wait to actually see them in the flesh as well. It would be great.
I just want to shout out again to any small builder, medium builder that's sick of using the same supplier. Definitely give these guys a chance at Mitre 10. They can't speak more highly of them, and very accommodating, speed of service, quick quote turnaround times, and very cost effective. So,
and we know they know their stuff as well.
They know
you
their
just
stuff.
had it there.
Yeah. So give Dan a shout at Mitre 10, and I'll pass you his details on.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Well, great. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. So, as always, everyone, like, share, follow, all the good stuff on socials, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.